For this video, I'm going to take you on a tour of the National Chevrolet Corvette Museum located in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Well, if it's not obvious by now, it actually should be, at least from the previous videos I've done for this channel. I am an absolute huge car guy. I love sports cars, muscle cars, anything that's fast, really. And I am especially fond of the domestic sports cars like the Corvette and the Mustang and the Viper especially. So, I mean, it was inevitable that I was going to end up here at the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky. This place is just absolutely incredible. It's one of the best museums I've ever been to. And the fact that they have specialized just on a single car model just kind of gives you an idea of the following the Chevy Corvette has. You know, there's the typical Corvette guy, you know, tends to be older. But I'll be honest with you, I've met a lot of Corvette guys over the years. I've driven quite a few Corvettes. The owners are some of the kindest, best people I've ever met. There's some real jerks, especially among car enthusiasts. I've kind of crossed paths with a lot of snooty people, and not really going to mention which brands like BMW or Porsche, but I won't name drop any specific brands like Audi, anything like that. I mean, I've been in the car culture for like 40 years, and I've been to a lot of car meets and car shows, and even raced a little bit in SCCA. And it's amazing that there's certain owners of certain brands that, you know, they have a stereotype for a reason, and man, they really do treat other people poorly. Okay, enough with that rant. Let's talk about this museum. So the National Corvette Museum opened in 1994, and we're located about a quarter-mile away from the assembly plant for the Chevy Corvette. Now, if you are a enthusiast of the Chevy Corvette or have a family member that is a huge fan of the Vette, they have to come here. This is the pinnacle of the Chevy Corvette. There are just certain things that they have that nobody else does have. Like, they have a 1983 Corvette. There's only one survivor. People that aren't familiar with the Chevy Corvette, they skipped over the 1983 model year because of delays with engineering the new generation C4. And only the prototypes existed, and they were supposed to all be crushed. And one of them apparently was parked behind an assembly building for one of the GM execs, and they basically hid it from GM for a couple years, and that's how it survived. So yeah, having that 1983 Corvette here is so special because it's the only survivor, one of one in the entire world. And they've got a lot of interesting stuff. Like, they got the V10 Corvette here. You'll notice that's the one with the hood up, and it's got this massive V10 stuffed under the hood to compete with the new for the 90s Dodge Viper that had the V10. So they definitely had a rivalry between Corvette and Viper. This museum also has the Stingray Cafe where you can grab a bite to eat. And there's a Corvette store. Got a lot of great Corvette merchandise, as you would expect. There's a Corvette simulator where you can drive a Corvette on a track, you know, virtual reality. All kinds of neat stuff. And there's conference rooms if you want to have meetings here and corporate events. And it's a massive facility. It's basically the size of, you know, a typical regional mall. It's just a really big building, and there's a lot of Corvettes here. So the facility itself is located on 60 acres, so they got lots of room for expansion. And the museum building itself is 115,000 square feet, so that's pretty damn big. Most car museums are usually like 25,000 square feet, maybe 50,000 square feet, so this is probably about twice the size of your average car museum. The only car museum that I've ever been to that was similar to this one, there used to be a place in Daytona Beach called Mark Martin's Classics Car Museum, and they had on the second floor every Chevy Corvette from the first year all the way up to that particular year. And I was there in 1996, so they had a 1953 all the way through 96. However, they obviously didn't have an 83 Corvette because, you know, that was the model year they skipped. It was a great little museum, the one in Daytona Beach, but it went out of business, I believe, in the late 90s. I want to say 98, 99, something like that. Only 2 or 3 years after I had visited that museum, so it didn't last very long. Now, this particular museum is actually run by a nonprofit, and they are a really well-funded nonprofit because this is the most beautiful museum I've ever seen. The execution of the exhibits here is second to none here at the Corvette Museum. just the touch screens and the way they have the prototype bucks and the glass cases, and they've got the simulated gas stations and simulated dealerships, and it's just incredible. And the Skywing area is beautiful too. Now, what's interesting too is the National Corvette Museum had a sinkhole about a decade ago, and I think like a dozen Corvettes fell into the sinkhole, and they even have a sinkhole simulator now to kind of almost poke fun of their history. And they've got some of the cars that are still trashed from falling down into the sinkhole, and they left them kind of in the natural state after they wrecked. They did restore the really historically significant Corvettes that were damaged, but they left some of the ones that were a little more common and not as collectible. So the admission prices run about $18 for adults. If you want to drive in the simulator, that's an additional $10 fee. Children ages 5 to 12 run about $13. The senior citizen price is about $16, and children ages 4 and under get in for free. There's some really interesting aspects of this museum that I've really never seen at any other museum. For example, if you purchase a new Corvette, you can actually have your new vehicle delivery basically take place here at the museum, and they go into like a much more in-depth orientation of like new vehicle ownership. There's all kinds of factory tours available at Bowling Green where they actually assemble the Chevy Corvette. While you don't book that officially through the museum, they are kind of affiliated with Bowling Green Assembly. So there are over 38,000 members of the National Corvette Club, and if you join that club, you get free admission to this particular museum. So I think that's kind of a nice perk. And you get a lapel pin and all kinds of stuff. So there's some interesting aspects. Like I said, this is not just a museum, but it's like a headquarters to one of the biggest car clubs in the nation. There's also a guided tour available at this museum. You can have a Corvette expert, curator of the museum, basically walk you around the facility and explain all the different aspects of it. There's an additional $5 fee if you want to go on the guided tour, and it takes place every day that the museum is open at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So I can already expect the comments or emails to ask me how many Corvettes do they have on display. You can expect to see 80 Corvettes in the museum at any one time. Now, they constantly are rotating the Corvettes. They've got a lot of new C8s, which are the brand new generation of the car, and they're constantly rotating their displays and which vehicles are here in the museum. So I filmed this video probably about 4 months ago, so I'm a little slow getting to editing it, and it's very likely a lot of the cars have already changed since I filmed it. So just be aware that they're constantly rotating in and out different cars, and it is a constantly evolving collection, and the curators are very aggressive at curating and keeping it fresh and different. So my bottom line for this particular museum is really straightforward. The place is actually amazing. It's one of the best car museums I've ever visited. This is definitely on the same level as like the Peterson out in California. Just an incredibly beautiful museum. Now, the Peterson is larger than this facility, but the Peterson has, a bunch of random collectible cars, and this is all one model. So this one's just a lot more focused. Probably don't need quite as much space as what the Peterson takes up. Would this place appeal to somebody who is only into Ford Mustangs or Dodge Vipers? That I don't know. It depends on how biased they are. Some people, I noticed that, Chevy truck guys won't allow themselves to be seen in a Ford truck, and Ford guys won't, go anywhere near Chevy trucks. There is kind of a bitter rivalry there. So I don't know if the Ford Mustang fans would appreciate this place as much as I do. I would think that people would be a little open to different experiences, and the Corvette is just an amazing, fascinating history, and it is America's original sports car and clearly the longest running. I would hope that Mustang guys would at least appreciate what the Corvette has done, since there would be no Mustang if the Corvette wasn't a success. The Corvette predates the Mustang by a decade. Me personally, I actually started out as a Mopar guy. I was really into the Dodge and Plymouths from the 60s and 70s, and I have kind of mellowed with time, and as I've experienced other brands, specifically Pontiac and Chevy, I've kind of fallen in love with those particular cars as well, and I've just kind of broadened my horizons as I've gotten older. Another great example is, as a teenager, I used to hate the imports, like with a passion. But I've really kind of evolved and fallen in love with things like the Supra and NSX over time as well. I can just appreciate the thrill of driving these cars, especially when it's a stick. I love manual transmissions. It's like my favorite thing in the world. I did kind of shed a tear when I found out that the C8 Corvette doesn't have a manual option. That's sort of a deal breaker for me. So as much as I love the C8 Corvette, I'll probably never buy one because I'm a dinosaur who really wants a manual transmission.
Flying so close to where we belong, and we're trying to go somewhere new. And I try to crack this iceberg open till it shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current.
So that pretty much wraps up all my thoughts on National Corvette Museum. I'm just going to put these video.
I wanna make shockwaves with you. And I know I'm only getting higher, till it feels like I can walk through fire. And I know I'm only getting higher, till it feels like I can walk through fire. Trying to step back and see the view from above, 'cause I know that nothing lasts forever. And I try to crack this iceberg open till it shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current till the waves flood what's been burning. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Adventure Schmuck. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See everyone next week.